International Workers' Day, also known as Labor Day, is a moment to celebrate labor and reflect on the quality of living for women and men around the world. How is life? That's perhaps the number one question on the lips of Nigerians. Nigeria's 70 million labor force. Babajide Ogunsanwo, our data scientist and information consultant, is here to share insights on the connection between labor, unemployment, and insecurity. Great to see you.
Good evening, Amarachi.
How is life?
It depends on who you ask. It really depends on who you ask. But how is life? I should ask you.
No, I asked you. I'm asking the questions. How is life? So, Labor Day and minimum wage are like twins. We've been talking about these issues for as long as I can remember. Is there any new evidence on the cost of living and the impact on the national minimum wage?
Cost of living, yes. Especially, it will be good for us to explain this in three different ways. The first is to look at the history. The second, to look at the present. And then I'll finally talk about the future. And if we look at the history, this Labor Day movement has been running for over 13 decades, dating back to the 1890s when it all started with a lot of discussions for better cost of living for women and especially low-income workers. So that is the history. But let's talk about the present. And that's because exactly on this day, a decade ago, Osama bin Laden was killed on this day. But Amarachi, tonight I'm not going to analyze the killing of Osama bin Laden. I want to analyze what is killing Nigeria's workers. And there's one thing that is killing the Nigerian worker today, and it's called inflation. I'll explain inflation from three perspectives. The first, on April 19, when President Buhari signed the minimum wage of 30,000 naira, workers smiled a bit. But I tell people that the minimum wage in Africa and in countries like Nigeria where inflation is high, it's actually a myth. And that's because between April 19th of 2019 and today, inflation has converted that 30,000 naira minimum wage to 21,000 naira. That's one way to look at it. The second way to look at it and understand this is, in April 2019, when the president signed the minimum wage, 30,000 naira will give you $98. Today, 30,000 naira will give you only $62. And finally, another way to look at it is, 4 decades ago, when we started this minimum wage thing, the national minimum wage in Nigeria in 1981 was 125 naira per month. You heard me right. 125 naira per month in 1981. Here's the catch. What 125 naira will buy you in 1981 is more than what 30,000 naira will buy for you today. So that is the present situation. So we've talked about the history, we've talked about the present, and let's talk quickly about the future before you ask your next question.
Oh, go on.
And the future is, we need to stop looking at the Nigerian labor force in terms of the traditional labor. We now need to look at our labor force as a talent force, not just the labor force. As long as we keep looking at it as labor manually, and we will really not understand the significance of Nigeria's talent force, which I prefer to call it.
Right. So the Labour Minister, Dr. Chris Ngige, recently shared some concerns about the accuracy of Nigeria's unemployment figures. In your opinion, how accurate is the Labour report and how productive is Nigeria's labour force?
So the first way to look at this is, let's look at, we need to understand Nigeria's labour structure because there are 5 levels to it. And if we look at exactly what is going on from the population perspective, you'll see that there are different changes. But what we have in front of us is why Nigerians are getting more frustrated. And that really speaks to the unemployment situation. And here's the catch. Based on the accurate facts from the National Bureau of Statistics, they say that the northeastern region is the region that has the highest number of people that are unemployed and underemployed. And that is the real significance of that. So 70% of the labor force in the northeastern region is either unemployed or underemployed. No other region has those sort of numbers, 70% of the labor force. The second region is the southeast region, where you see that in the southeast, 65% of the labor force in the southeast is either unemployed and underemployed. And so we clearly can see some correlation between what is the insecurity challenges we face in the Northeast and in the Southwest. These are the two regions that have the highest number of what we call frustrated Nigerians. And by frustrated Nigerians, we are looking at Nigerians in the labor force that are either unemployed, they have nothing to do, or they are underemployed. And really, that is the way we need to look at the labor force. If you look at in the Southwest, 40% of those in the labor force in the Southwest are either unemployed or underemployed. And those are the way we need to look at the figures to be able to understand exactly what is going on.
So then how do those figures explaining the unemployment situation, how do they then influence security in Nigeria?
You know, the way I would look at it is since 2002, when the Boko Haram challenge started, Nigeria has had 10 chief of defense staff, starting from in 2002 when you had Admiral Ibrahim Ogohi. Today, Nigerians are asking, this is almost 100 days, what are the military chiefs doing? What is the chief of defense staff doing? And the answer to that first is they are remotivating troops. You know, ever since in this Fourth Republic, there's no chief of defense staff that has traveled as much as this current chief of defense staff. In less than 100 days, he has visited 10 different states. But why, despite the remotivation of troops, why are we still not seeing Nigeria, why Nigeria is not feeling safer? And that is because of the numbers we just showed, whereby there are a lot of things that are affecting insecurity. We're seeing Nigeria's talents, most of Nigeria's talents are either classified as unemployed or underemployed. So in today's labor force, yes, we have 69 million people, which is what we have in front, but more than half of Nigeria's talent are either classified as unemployed or underemployed. In other words, the labor structure, unemployment and underemployment in Nigeria's Northeast and the Southeast is affecting security. One of the ways to look at it is to, rather than just approach security from the top, what we are seeing is we are facing wars on employment. We are facing wars of injustice. We are facing wars of perceived injustice. We are facing wars on land. We are facing religious wars. And so to be able to solve Nigeria's national security challenge from the labor perspective, we need to look at it from these levels, rather than look at it as we want improved security. Yes, it's right for Nigerians to ask, and Nigerians' labor to ask for improved security, but the approach to improve security is to fight unemployment, to fight injustice, to fight the religious wars going on, to fight the ethnic wars going on, to fight the perception of injustice and the reality of injustice. And in the final analysis, you know what the wise man once said? That there's no problem that can sustain the assault of sustained thinking. And that is what we expect from the labor force, from the talent force going forward.
Thank you so much, Professor. Always food for thought. Thanks again.